Obama has paid for the votes of 1.6 million students. He paid for their votes. He bought them off. How did he do that? By forgiving their student loans. Forgiving or modifying the terms, and after a certain period of time, the loans will be forgiven if they haven't paid them off. So he's taking taxpayer money and he's using it to pay for the votes of students and recent graduates. If you're still in college, you can look forward to your loans being forgiven. So naturally, you're going to vote for President Obama. So President Obama is using taxpayer funds to pay for the votes of 1.6 million students. All you kids out there who are really greedy, yeah, I said greedy, you were really greedy, and you borrowed a lot of money to go to college so you could make a lot of money. That's why you went to college, to make money. You greedy. And those who didn't pay for it, those who loaned you the money, the taxpayers, they didn't get the education, but they're paying for your education. Many people who didn't graduate from college, and they work today in just regular jobs that don't require a college education. They might be carpenters, electricians, waitresses, housekeepers, whatever. And they didn't go to college. They weren't greedy like you students out there who had to spend thousands of dollars to go to school. And now you got to pay the money back. But President Obama says no. He says, I'm going to forgive it. I think this is what we call class warfare. You take money from one group of people, you give it to another group. Those who couldn't or didn't go to college, they didn't want to borrow, or they didn't feel like college was for them, they got to pay for your education. And many people who did go to college and may have had student loans, or they didn't have them, either way, they have to pay for your education now. So it seems like the Occupy Wall Street crowd has been satisfied. One of their big demands was to forgive student loan debt. All of it in their own self-interest. They were right down there on Occupy Wall Street campaigning, protesting, because they wanted their student loan debt forgiven. They were greedy to get that money forgiven. And now President Obama hands it to them in exchange for their votes. This is part of President Obama's re-election campaign to get the student vote. Now, all the students with student loans that may be forgiven are going to tell all their friends, vote for President Obama. He's great. He paid for my vote. So now you all need to vote for him too. All their friends, got to tell all their friends to vote for him. It just seems like it was all self-serving. Supposedly you're against Wall Street. But you say Wall Street was greedy. The greedy capitalists on Wall Street. Are you sure that it really wasn't you guys who were greedy? You were greedy to get that money forgiven. Because it's all about money. You borrowed the money to make money. Now, you were greedy for that money to be given back, to be forgiven, so you wouldn't have to pay it back. But we can make one suggestion. Why shouldn't kids, or rather people who have graduated from high school, from college, be able to just declare bankruptcy? If they really can't pay them their loans, they just declare bankruptcy. Just like any other debt, if you can't pay it. I mean, right now the government laws preclude federal student loans from being included in bankruptcy. So if they really can't pay it, then they just declare bankruptcy and all their debts will be wiped out. Maybe you could put a provision in, if the students get a job paying above a certain amount, then they would still have to pay back that money once they got that job. That would be much more sensible than any type of across-the-board forgiveness after a certain number of years. Why shouldn't federal debt be treated just like any other debt? If you can't pay it, it has to get wiped out, because that's part of our system. When people borrow, that in the worst case scenario, people can get it wiped out in bankruptcy. It goes on your credit record, and naturally you can't borrow again. Lenders will shy away from lending to you for a number of years. But it would seem better just to treat it as any other debt rather than give it student loan debt a special privilege of being forgiven to the borrowers. But I wanted everybody to look here at this Rasmussen report. Okay, let's first look at this. It says, according to Christian Science Monitor, an estimated 1.6 million borrowers will be eligible to lower their payments next year under this plan. So that's 1.6 million votes President Obama's trying to buy. And then if we go here to Rasmussen, according to the Rasmussen survey, only 20% of American adults think the federal government should forgive the nearly $1 trillion in loans it made or guaranteed. 66% oppose the forgiveness of all student loans, and 13% are undecided. So most Americans opposed it, the idea of student loan forgiveness. But that's not President Obama's problem, because his problem is to get reelected, to use taxpayer funds to buy off 1.6 million students. Those are the facts. That's it for